The cheapest thing you can be is available, and you have spent your whole life trying to be exactly that. Let that land, because it inverts everything you were taught about getting ahead. You were told to be helpful, say yes, be easy to work with, always reachable, always willing. And you believed that was how you become valuable. It is the opposite. Everything you give away for free, the world quietly reprices to zero, because a thing with no cost is treated as a thing with no worth. So here is the question that quietly decides how much your life is worth to other people. When someone wants your time, your work, or your yes, do they have to earn it, or do they just have to ask? Be honest, because if they only have to ask, you have priced yourself at free, and free is not a generous position. It is a fatal one. No one has ever protected, respected, or feared losing something they were getting for nothing. You just spent 5 laws learning to read people, hold cold, and choose who gets close. This is the force running underneath every one of those rooms. Money, not how to make it, how it behaves, who it moves toward, and why it flows to the man who is hard to get, rather than the man who is always there. This first law is the foundation of all of it. Stop being free, become expensive. And I will warn you now, becoming expensive costs you something real in the short term, and most men are too afraid of that cost to ever pay it, which is exactly why most men stay cheap their whole lives. Hold on for that one. 500 years ago, Machiavelli warned princes about the trap of generosity. A ruler who gives freely and constantly, he observed, does not build loyalty. He builds expectation, and expectation is bottomless. The more you give, the more is expected, until the giving is no longer seen as generosity at all, but as your basic obligation, and the moment you stop, you are hated for it. The valued prince, he taught, is careful and deliberate with what he gives, because a thing given rarely is treasured, and a thing given always is owed. Before we start, drop 3 words in the comments. I raise my price. Type it. Because by the end of this you will understand that your price was never set by the market. It was set by you. Every time you said yes when you should have said, that will cost you. Before the mechanism, understand the trap you are actually in, because it is more precise than just being too nice. There is a law underneath human valuation that almost nobody says out loud. People do not value what things are worth. They value what things cost them. A gift handed over easily is enjoyed and forgotten. A thing fought for, paid for, waited for, is treasured and protected. This is not about greed, it is wiring. The mind uses cost as a shortcut for worth, because measuring true value is hard, and measuring price is easy. So when you make yourself free, when your time costs nothing to get, and your yes requires no effort to obtain, the people around you do not conclude that you are generous. They conclude automatically, below the level of thought, that you are cheap, because cheap is what free means to the human brain. Watch how this plays out in a real life. There is a man at every company like this. He is the most competent person on the team. He stays late. He covers for everyone. He never says no, because saying no feels selfish, and he was raised to be useful. And year after year, he watches less capable men get promoted over him, and he tells himself it is politics, or luck, or that they are better at talking. It is none of those things. It is that he taught everyone, through 1,000 easy yeses, that his time is free, and a company does not promote its free resource. It protects it exactly where it is, because moving it up would cost money. And why would you pay for a thing you have been getting for nothing? That is the cruelty of free. It does not just fail to get you ahead, it actively locks you in place, because your availability becomes the very thing people depend on, and dependence on your cheapness is not the same as valuing you. Machiavelli saw it in courts 500 years ago. The advisor who was always available, always agreeable, always there, became furniture. The one who was harder to reach, whose counsel had to be sought, was treated as precious. Same men, different prices, and the price was set entirely by how easy they were to get. And notice the cruelest turn of the free trap. The better you are at being free, the deeper the hole. The man who is only somewhat helpful gets somewhat taken for granted. But the man who is extraordinarily helpful, who never drops a ball, who can be relied on completely, becomes so essential in his free role that promoting him would break the machine. His excellence at being free is the exact thing that chains him to the bottom. The reward for being indispensable at your current level is to be made permanent at your current level. Read that twice, because it explains a decade of your life. The competent free man is not overlooked despite his competence. He is overlooked because of it, because his competence is load-bearing exactly where he stands, and no one moves a load-bearing wall. So how do you become expensive? It loads in sequence, like a system, and you cannot skip to the end. Here is the first move, and it is the hardest because it feels the most wrong. You have to be willing to say no and survive the discomfort of it. This is where almost everyone fails, because the first no is terrifying. You have trained the people around you for years to expect yes, and the first time you break the pattern, there is a real cost. Disappointment, a flash of anger, the sense that you have become difficult. Your whole body screams to take it back, to apologize, to over-explain, to soften it until it becomes a yes again. And if you cave in that moment, you have taught them something worse than before, that your no is just a yes that needs a little pressure. Here is what you have to understand about that first no. The discomfort you feel is not a sign you did something wrong. It is the sensation of a price being set for the first time. It is supposed to feel like that. A man who has been free his whole life cannot become expensive without passing through the exact discomfort he has spent his life avoiding. The no is the toll booth, and the discomfort is the toll. Pay it once, cleanly, without collapsing, and something shifts. The person recalibrates. They begin slowly to understand that your yes is not automatic, which means, for the first time, your yes is worth something. And you have to expect the pushback, because it is coming, and it is proof the move is working. When a free man says his first no, the people who benefited from his free price do not applaud. They resist. They act surprised or hurt or annoyed, and that reaction is designed, consciously or not, to pull him back to yes. Most men read that resistance as evidence they did something wrong and cave. Read it correctly. The resistance is not a sign of error. It is the sound of a price going up, and the people who were getting you cheap objecting to the new rate. Of course they object. They were getting a bargain, and the bargain just ended. Their discomfort is not your problem to solve. It is the market adjusting to your new price, and markets always complain when prices rise. Let them complain and hold the number. The move this week is small, and it will feel enormous. Find one request you would normally say yes to out of pure habit, one where the yes costs you and benefits mostly them, and say no. Calmly, without a paragraph of justification, that doesn't work for me, and then sit in the discomfort and do not undo it. You are not being difficult. You are setting a price for the first time in your life. Watch how this plays out in a real scene. A man gets a message at 6 in the evening. A colleague asking him to take over a task that is not his, due tomorrow, because the colleague has plans. The old version of this man feels the familiar pull. Saying no feels cruel. The colleague will be disappointed, and the disappointment is unbearable. So he says yes, cancels his own evening, and resents it silently while the colleague goes out. He has done this 100 times, and each time he taught the colleague the same lesson. His evenings are free for the taking. The new version types 4 words. That doesn't work for me. No excuse, no softening, no offer of a compromise. And then he puts the phone down, and does not pick it back up when the follow-up guilt text arrives. It will arrive, it always does, because guilt is the tool people use to reverse a no. He lets it sit, and by morning, something has permanently changed. The colleague has learned, for the first time, that this man's time has an owner, and the owner is him. One no did that, not a speech. One no held mechanism 2. Once you can hold a no, you make people invest to get your yes. Here is the principle. The amount someone values you is directly proportional to what they had to spend to get to you. Not money, necessarily, effort, time, waiting, a small amount of earned access. When everything you offer is instant and effortless to obtain, it registers as worthless, no matter how good it actually is. When there is a small, real cost to getting your time or your work, that cost gets silently converted, in the other person's mind, into worth. This is why the most sought-after professionals are never instantly available, and it is not an act. The good lawyer, the good specialist, the craftsman with a waiting list are not playing hard to get as a trick. They are genuinely in demand, and that demand creates a natural cost to access them, and that cost signals value, which increases demand further. It is a loop, and it runs in the right direction. Meanwhile, the man who answers every message in 30 seconds, who can always fit you in, who never has a waiting list, is signaling the opposite loop, and it runs downward. His instant availability tells everyone his time is not spoken for. And time that is not spoken for is time no one else wanted, and no one wants what no one else wants. You do not fake this, you build it, and then you stop hiding it. Stop apologizing for taking a day to reply. Stop being available at every hour. Stop dropping your own priorities the instant someone else's need appears. Let there be a small, real cost to reaching you, not out of arrogance, but because your time is genuinely committed to things that matter, and a committed man is a valued man. The move this week. The next time someone wants your time, do not offer the first slot available. Offer one that requires them to wait a little and hold it. Watch how differently they treat the time once they had to wait for it. Understand the psychology under the waiting, because it feels counterintuitive until you see it. When you make someone wait a reasonable amount for your time, two things happen in their mind at once. First, they conclude your time must be in demand, because things that are freely available do not have waits, and demand signals value. Second, and this is the deeper one, the waiting itself makes them invest, and people protect what they have invested in. A man who waited 2 weeks for a meeting shows up on time, prepared, and takes it seriously, because he has already spent something to be there. A man you saw the same afternoon, he asked, treats the meeting as disposable. It cost him nothing, and cost is how the mind measures worth. You are not being difficult by having a wait. You are giving the other person the chance to value you, which they literally cannot do if everything about you is instant. Instant access is not a gift, it is the removal of the only mechanism by which humans assign worth. Quick question, and men split hard on this. Who ends up more respected in the long run? The man who is always generous and always available, or the man who is warm but selective, whose help has to be earned? Half of you believe generosity wins, that giving freely builds the deepest loyalty. But look honestly at your own life. The people you gave the most to, freely, endlessly, did they treasure it, or did they come to expect it and resent the day it stopped? Drop your take below, generous or selective. And here is the audit that stings. Name one relationship or job where your endless availability was rewarded with less respect, not more. Most men can name it instantly and have never once connected it to the free price they set. Mechanism 3, and this is the one that changes everything. The ultimate source of a high price is the credible willingness to walk away. Here is where the anchor of this whole video lives, and it is one of the most expensive decisions ever made. worth studying line by line. In 1963, Enzo Ferrari, the founder of the greatest name in racing, was in trouble. His company needed money badly, and the most powerful car company on earth, Ford, came to buy him out. The negotiation went for months. The number on the table was around $10 million, a fortune, and Ferrari was in genuine financial need. Ford sent a delegation to Italy. They audited everything. Both sides believed the deal was essentially done. Enzo had, by most accounts, approved it, and then Enzo Ferrari read one clause. The clause said that any spending on his racing team above a certain limit would have to be submitted to Ford for approval. His racing budget, the thing that was his entire life's work, would no longer be his to control. He would have to submit and get permission, according to the man sitting beside him. Ferrari picked up his pen and underlined the words submit and approval twice, in violet ink. Then he stood up. In a room full of the 14 most powerful negotiators Ford could send, a man who desperately needed their money, and he walked away from $10 million. The Ford delegation sat there in silence. The deal was over, forever, because Enzo Ferrari would not be owned, not for any price. Now understand what that walkaway actually bought him, because this is the entire lesson. In the short term, it cost him enormously. He gave up a fortune he needed, but watch what happened next. Because Ferrari proved he would not be bought, his name became something no amount of Ford money could ever have made it. Untouchable, independent, legendary, Fiat later invested in Ferrari on completely different terms. Terms that let Enzo keep total control of his racing team, precisely because he had demonstrated, in that room in 1963, that control was not for sale at any price. The walkaway did not cost him his company. It set the price of his company, and that price was, you cannot own me. That is the most expensive a man can ever be. The mechanism underneath is simple, and it applies to you at every scale. The moment the other side knows you cannot walk away, your price collapses to whatever they decide to offer, because you have no floor. The moment they know you can walk, and will, every number they name has to account for the fact that they might lose you entirely. Your willingness to lose the deal is the only thing that sets its true price. A man who cannot walk away from his job is paid the minimum that keeps him from quitting. A man who genuinely could walk, and they know it, is paid what it takes to keep him. Same work, different floor, and the floor is set by one thing: whether you can leave. You do not have to reject $10 million this week, but you can begin building the one asset that made Ferrari's walkaway possible. Options. Because a man with no options cannot walk away from anything. And a man who cannot walk away has handed the pricing pen to someone else. Every skill you build, every bit you save, every alternative you develop, is not just practical. It is the foundation of your price, because it is what lets you say no and mean it. And here is the uncomfortable truth about most men's careers, seen through Ferrari's clause. They have spent years quietly signing the exact document Enzo refused. Not on paper, in behavior. Every time you took the job you could not afford to lose, and let them know it, you handed over the pen. Every time you accepted a number without a counter, because you had no alternative, you underlined submit and approval yourself. The reason so many capable men are underpaid is not that they lack skill. It is that they have no floor, and everyone can smell it. The boss knows you cannot leave. The client knows you need this. The moment your inability to walk becomes visible, your price is set by their generosity, not your worth, and generosity is always the minimum. Ferrari's power in that room was not his cars. It was that he had buried in his character a line he would not cross for money, and everyone in the room could feel it was real. Build that line in yourself, back it with real options, and let people feel that it is real. That is worth more than any raise you will ever negotiate, because it changes every negotiation you will ever have. Mechanism 4, the last ones, and it ties the others together. Once you stop being free, you do not announce it. You just let the new price stand. This is where men undo all their progress. They finally decide to become expensive, and then they ruin it by talking about it. They announce the boundary. They give a speech about how they are going to start valuing their time. They explain at length why they are saying no now. And all of that explaining is a tell. It signals that the new price is negotiable, that you are seeking permission for it, that underneath you are still the anxious free man hoping to be understood. An announced boundary is a request. A quiet boundary is a fact. Enzo Ferrari did not give a speech about his worth. He underlined 2 words and stood up. The most expensive move in the story was almost wordless. This is the Machiavelli principle, closing the loop. You do not tell people you have become valuable. You simply stop being available in the old way. Hold the discomfort without explaining it, and let them arrive at the new valuation on their own. The reprice happens in their head, not in your speech. When you quietly stop dropping everything, quietly let your yes cost something, quietly demonstrate you can walk, people recalculate what you are worth, without you ever saying a word about it. And a valuation someone reaches on their own is permanent, where one you argued them into is not. The move here is a discipline of silence. As you raise your price this month, say nothing about it. No announcements, no explanations, no speeches about your new boundaries. Just change what you do, and let the change speak. The less you explain your new price, the more real it becomes. See the difference in 2 men who both decide to stop working weekends. The first one announces it. He tells his boss he has been thinking about work-life balance, that he needs to start protecting his time, that going forward he will not be available on Saturdays. And here is why. He has just turned a fact into a request, and worse, into a topic, something that can be discussed, negotiated, pushed back on, and quietly eroded over the next 3 months until the weekends are gone again. The second man says nothing. He simply stops answering on Saturdays. No announcement, no framework, no explanation. The first Saturday message goes unanswered until Monday. So does the second. Within a month, without a single conversation, everyone has quietly learned that he is not reachable on weekends. And because it was never announced, there is nothing to argue with and nothing to walk back. A boundary you declare invites debate. A boundary you simply live becomes law. The silent man's weekend is permanent. The announcing man's weekend is a negotiation he will keep losing. Now the turn, and it goes somewhere you will not expect. Everything so far has been about the price other people pay to reach you. But the deepest price in this video is the one you have been quietly setting on yourself, in your own head, for years. Because the reason most men are free to everyone else is that they are free to themselves first. They do not protect their own time because they do not believe their own time is worth protecting. They say yes to everyone because underneath they are not sure they have the standing to say no. The external free price is just a reflection of an internal one. You cannot charge the world a price you have not first charged yourself. Sit with that, because it reframes the entire video. When you drop everything for a low-value request, the message you send the other person is bad, yes. But the message you send yourself is worse. You are telling yourself again that your priorities come last, that your work is interruptible, that you are a resource for others before you are a man with a direction of his own. Every free yes is a small vote you cast against your own worth, and you have been casting it for years, and then wondering why the world agrees with you. The world always agrees with the price you set on yourself. It reads that price off your behavior and simply confirms it. So the real work is not learning to say no to others. That is downstream. The real work is deciding, internally, that your time and your direction have worth, that they are not infinitely available to whoever asks, that you are the primary claimant on your own life. Once that internal price is set, the external no becomes easy, almost automatic, because you are no longer defending a boundary you are unsure of. You are simply acting like a man whose time is already spoken for by him. Enzo Ferrari could walk away from $10 million because he had already decided, long before that room, what he was and was not for sale. The walk-away in the room was just the external echo of a price he had set on himself years earlier. Set yours. And here is the part that is hard to hear. If you have been free your whole life, some part of you has quietly enjoyed it, because being endlessly available is also a way of being needed, and being needed feels like being valued even when it is the opposite. The free man gets to feel important. Everyone comes to him. He is at the center of everything, indispensable, run off his feet. It feels like status. It is the costume of status worn by a man with no price. And giving it up means giving up that feeling of being needed and sitting for a while in the quieter, colder truth that you are not indispensable, you are just cheap. That is the real reason most men never raise their price. Not because they cannot say no, because the free version of themselves feels important, and the expensive version at first feels lonely. Sit in that loneliness anyway. On the other side of it is the first respect you have ever been paid that was real. So there it is, the first law of the wolf economy: stop being free, the first no that sets a price for the first time. Making them invest, so that access carries a cost that converts to worth. The walk-away, the credible willingness to lose the deal, which is the only thing that sets a real floor. And the silent reprice, letting the new value stand without a word of explanation. 4 moves, 1 shift, from the cheapest thing in the room to a man with a price. And the debate from the middle, generous versus selective. Here is my answer, and it is not the comfortable one. Endless generosity does not build loyalty. It builds expectation, and expectation curdles into resentment the day you stop. The warm, selective man, whose help is real but not automatic, builds something the endlessly generous man never does. He builds value that people are afraid to lose. That fear of loss is worth more than all the gratitude in the world, because gratitude fades and fear of loss protects you. Be warm, be genuinely good to people, but never be free, because free is not kind, it is invisible. Here is what changes when you stop being free. The people who only valued your availability drift away, and it will sting, and it is supposed to, because they were never valuing you. And the people who remain start treating your time as something precious, because now it is. The promotion conversation changes. The way people speak to you changes. And slowly you stop being the most used man in the room and become the one whose yes actually means something. All of it flows from a single decision, that you are no longer available to everyone, for nothing, on demand. Say it one more time, and mean it now. I raise my price, not out of coldness, out of the understanding that a thing with no cost is treated as a thing with no worth. And you were never meant to be worth nothing. If this reset how you see your own value, you are one of the pack, and the pack does not sell its control for any number. Subscribe, because this is the first law in a series on how money actually moves. The next one goes deeper into a strange truth about wealth. Money does not flow toward the hardest worker or the loudest man in the room. It flows toward the calmest. There is a cold psychology to why the composed man ends up rich and the anxious man stays broke. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it in your own financial life. That is next in The Wolf Economy, new episode Thursday. Don't miss it. Set your price. Hold the first no. Make them wait. Keep the pen. And remember, you were never too generous. You were just too cheap with the one thing that was always yours to price. which was you.